Carol Massar, you've been gone for the last couple of days. I don't know if you were interviewing for cabinet positions or something, but you obviously didn't get it, so you're back here.
I told you not to tell anybody.
I know. I put your name in there for Secretary of State, but maybe next year.
No luck, Carol,
look at the market, Carol, and you tell me what you see and what you make of the moves over the last few days.
Well, first of all, there was so much enthusiasm, right? I feel like about certainly what's to come, pro-growth policies and so on and so forth. Today, I feel like it's a confused marketplace. I think there's a sigh of relief that inflation didn't come in higher than expected, but I think there's a wary eye by investors about what's to come at this point in terms of the Trump team.
Well, one thing that's not confused in terms of direction at all is Bitcoin, still moving higher, crossing $93,000 per Bitcoin. Yes, another day, another new record high, Scarlet, for the cryptocurrency.
How do you
Continued
explain
optimism.
that?
I mean, maybe there's going to be a strategic Bitcoin reserve and the government will start buying Bitcoin. Maybe.
Is that like the strategic oil reserve?
Maybe Tim is going to be crypto czar.
But the Bitcoin is invisible.
As long as we're growing the Bitcoin right here in the U.S. Must be U.S. made.
These are all valid questions. And it's not just Bitcoin as part of the Trump trade that continues, right? You also have the U.S. dollar. It's been a relentless rally for the dollar, higher in 5 of the last 6 trading sessions, which will make next week's G20 meeting really interesting.
All right, the clapping starts here in New York on the NASDAQ and the NYSE as we get the closing bells. A mixed bag here once again, and we talk about some of the softness, some of the drop in volume that we've seen coming off what had been a pretty euphoric rally, one of the best post-election rallies that we've had in decades. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, though, is going to settle back below that 44,000 level, though it is higher on the day by about 0.1%. We're going to call the S&P 500 unchanged. It's up about 1.5 to 59.85 and change. The NASDAQ Composite lower on the day by about 0.3%. The NASDAQ 100 down 0.2%. And when it comes to the small and mid-cap space, mid-caps down 0.5%, and the Russell 2000, Carol Massar, selling off by about 0.9%.
That's a breather after the run-up that we've seen post-election. All right, to the large caps I go, and we've got kind of an even split here. 259 names in the S&P 500 to the upside, and you've got 240 to the downside, Scarlet.
All right, let's take a look at the sector performances here. You have, let's say, 7 groups in the green. Consumer discretionary leading the way up by more than 1%. Energy and real estate investment trusts also higher on the day. Communication services, tech, and healthcare are in the red, but not by very much. The biggest decline there is 0.5%.
All right, guys, to the individual gainers. Rivian on that list up about 14% off its highs of the day when it was up more than 23%, but still about a 14% gain. The EV maker rallying after VW raised investment plans by $800 million. Analysts noting that an overhang on the stock is lifted as investors had concerns about that joint venture closing. So keep in mind, stock's still down about 46% year to date. Charter, M&A, I got to say, I did a panel this morning and at Schuyler over at Citi. You know, the expectation is that a Trump administration will be more conducive to M&A activity happening. So we did have a little bit of it today, but it's kind of a John Malone special. Charter, a top gainer in the S&P 500, up 3.6%. Charter agreeing to buy Liberty Broadband in an all-stock transaction. So this merger basically consolidating 2 public companies in which cable billionaire John Millionaire holds significant interest. It's always interesting when John Malone is involved. One more, Rocket Lab for you, up 28% at its highs, guys, up about 53% in today's session, soaring after providing a fourth quarter revenue forecast that beat estimates fueled by more Electron launches scheduled in November and December. So this is a big deal. And I got to do one more. Forgive me, I did 4. Microvast, blame Tim because he gave me this name. Microvast Holdings up 340%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when something moves.
It's a micro cap. I knew you were going to give me junk about it.
Blame me.
It's an advanced battery tech company soaring. Trade was halted. No surprise there following third quarter results. Revenue beating, and the company reported third quarter adjusted earnings of 5 cents a share, beating the analyst estimates for a loss of 7 cents per share. I was gone for so long, I get to do 4
It was 18 cents yesterday, and today it's at 80 cents.
All right, so blame Tim. It's not me.
Yeah, but it was one of the most actively traded stocks
I'm still on
today.
Antibiotics and steroids. Like, this is what happens when you get into microcap.
You should see the roid rage from Carol Massar. Let's talk a little bit about some superlatives today, because Instacart shares falling 11%, the most ever, after the company forecast adjusted earnings in the current period that fell short of analysts' expectations. The company did post strong revenue in the third quarter, so it does see some resilience in that core grocery delivery business, but that adjusted earnings in the current period that fell short of analysts' expectations, sending shares down a record for a single day, down 11%. Speaking of shares moving lower, the most ever, Spirit Airlines ticker SAVE, those shares plunging today close to 60%. It hit the lowest intraday level on record. Bloomberg reported the company was closing in on a deal with creditors that would restructure its debt load in bankruptcy court. An agreement with creditors is expected to lead to the cancellation of the company's existing equity, Spirit said in a filing. Shares falling 60% today. And Rocket Companies shares falling today. They're the mortgage lender. They provided a fourth quarter revenue forecast that fell short of expectations. Shares falling today by just over 9%. We have seen home lenders struggle with sluggish mortgage markets as interest rates have remained elevated from those pre-pandemic levels. Rocket has this technology, though, and uses AI as a way of setting itself apart from its rivals. Still, investors disappointed to hear what they learned this week.
Let's take a quick look at where yields ended the day here. A pretty compelling story where we saw a drop on the front end of the curve, at least when it comes to that 2-year and 5-year yield. The 2-year down by about 7 basis points, that 5-year down about 2. But when you look at the longer end of the curve here, a 10-year yield up by about 4 to 5 basis points and a 30-year up about 7. You put it all together here, we actually had one of the biggest steepening of the curves that we've seen going back to at least August. I'm just going to cherry pick the 210s curve because that's what a lot of people like to look at. Right now, closing out the day right around 17. It was at 8 yesterday, and you're seeing similar parts of the curve also. Basically, a really sort of steepening twist, if you will. It'll be interesting to see exactly what the fixed income market is trying to price in here and why there's disparity going in different directions. Scarlett.
All right. Actually, we have Sono and Cisco coming out, but I'm going to go with Sonos first because that's what my producer told me to do, and I listened to her.
Mistake.
That's a dig at Romaine.
Go for Cisco. Go for Cisco.
So hold on. Let me just pull it up. Sonos. Right now, hold on 1 second. There we go. SONO is the ticker for anyone keeping track. Fourth quarter revenue beating analyst estimates, $255.4 million, topping the consensus estimate of $247. However, it is still losing money. Adjusted loss per share was 18 cents, narrower than the expected 19 cents a share.
Let's get right to Cisco here. In the most recent quarter, the company posting about $13.8 billion in revenue, a slight beat. Revenue on the product side, also a slight beat. EPS at 91 cents a share, a slight beat over what the street was looking for at 87 cents. Here's your full year forecast going forward. The company sees revenue in the fiscal year at $55.3 to $56.3 billion. It had previously seen 55 to 56. So minor tweaks here on both the top and bottom of that. And on EPS, here's your range, Carol, $3.60 to $3.66. That low end is higher than the high end of the previous forecast that they had given.
Yeah, what's interesting now, the stock, though, after an initial pop, now down about 1/3%. So kind of interesting, looking for some commentary on what they're getting from companies in terms of demand. But, you know, as you said, I mean, some of these numbers, first quarter revenue, 13.84, that's a beat. See, second quarter adjusted EPS, 89 and 91. That is above street expectations of 87 cents. First quarter adjusted gross margin, that is better, 69.3% versus an estimate of 67.6, but street not impressed.
I mean, looking through the numbers here, and I don't want to speculate too much, but when you look at the breakdown of their units on a product basis here, you have a lot of negative signs, and the big exception, though, is security revenue, which more than doubled. Though I do believe, and someone could correct me if I'm wrong, that might actually be because of an acquisition here. So that might be some of the issue, is that when you look at this, particularly on the organic side, maybe not as much growth as it appears on the surface.
We always do want to hear from Cisco about what their customers are saying. Chuck Robbins, the chair and CEO, saying, quote, "Our customers are investing in critical infrastructure to prepare for AI, and with the breadth of our portfolio, we are uniquely positioned to capitalize on this opportunity." Remember, this is a company that was involved in the first .com boom and bust with that networking technology. So going from Web 1.0 to Web 3.0, certainly something that Cisco's trying to do.
Are we at 3.0 now?
3.0, that's where we are.
Oh.
Also, we should mention that Cisco is maintaining its quarterly dividend at 40 cents a share. It's got a 2.7% dividend yield, which among big tech companies is pretty high up there.
Got to say, the stock's up 16% year to date, so it has been on an upswing, but maybe investors just saying it's just not enough. So we'll look for some more commentary, certainly on the call with analysts. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Our cross-platform radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. We do it all. We will see you again, same time, same place tomorrow for the closing bell.